Hello and welcome to the Tuesday Total Soccer Show. I am Daryl Grove. Sitting across the table from me, it's multiple Ballon d'Or winner, Taylor Rockwell.
Multiple Ballon d'Or nominee. I'm just way back on the list, but I appreciate that you're willing to give me that credit.
It's not the same one that Cristiano Ronaldo wins.
No, not so much.
It's a different one.
Yes.
It's for second best podcaster on the Total Soccer Show.
Yeah, I was trying to think of some sort of pun relating to Ballon d'Or or Fall on Floor, the Reddit diving award. I couldn't think of one fast enough.
I do love that. I've noticed some other websites are using that same phrase.
Oh, yeah?
They've basically stolen it from Reddit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Isn't that a constant theme on Reddit? Just great things they come up with get sort of co-opted by things like, say, Metro.
Yep, that's about right. Yeah,
that's
or
right.
The creation of rumors to see what happens.
Yeah.
I love when they do that, too.
So on today's show, we're going to be talking Ballon d'Or, Cristiano Ronaldo and the future, and we're going to be talking Champions League Round of 16.
That we are.
All right, let's start. Cristiano Ronaldo is the 2016 France Football Ballon d'Or winner. It's his fourth ever Ballon d'Or. He has 4 golden balls. And it now means that since Kaká won it in 2007, nobody else except Cristiano Ronaldo, Leo Messi, has won the Ballon d'Or.
It's been a while. It's been a two-horse race, pretty clearly, yeah.
A 2-cohort race.
That's the one.
So the question, I don't want to ask, does Ronaldo deserve it? Because I feel like the answer is a quite easy yes, right?
Yes.
Champions League win, Euro 2016 win,
yep.
Being real good at soccer,
also
win.
That.
So he's obviously a deserving winner. My question is, who's the person, not Messi, not Ronaldo, who's going to eventually... Because one day, someone else is going to win it, right?
Yeah.
It may be like, not my children, not my grandchildren. It'd be many generations hence. Someone else is going to win the Ballon d'Or.
I really think it's harder to speculate about this than it ever has been before, because Messi and Ronaldo have just been so dominant that... It really
8 years.
Yeah, it really will take, like, from a theoretical standpoint of trying to guess who it might be, it will take a sublime, consistent performance for somebody to overtake one of the two of them, or both of them, obviously.
Or a massive down year for both of them, right? Which I don't think has ever happened at the same time, right?
Yeah. So with that in mind, though, I think we both have a couple nominees. I actually have 5 in front of me.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So let's start with your list then, Tyler.
Okay. Do you want them in terms of... I'll go from least likely to most likely.
You choose,
I say my least likely players to do it would be someone like Sergio Ramos, who's been a consistent performer for Real Madrid, and especially lately because he keeps getting those... have you seen that joke of like 10-minute, 20-minute, 30-minute, 40?
Yeah,
it gets
Ramos
up to
time.
70, 80 Ramos. Yeah, basically. Because that's when he scores.
That's how the clock goes.
Yeah, and so he's just been such a consistent performer and leader for Madrid and Spain. Maybe if Spain do something. A lot of this is dependent upon that 2018 World Cup and solid performances therein. So for example...
any big Real Madrid wins, it's still going to involve Ronaldo for the next couple of years, right? And because Ronaldo's the attacking player... Ramos maybe is going to be overlooked, even if he scores those last-minute headers.
And that's why I have Toni Kroos on that list as well, because
that's a good one.
of the Germany-Madrid combination.
Yeah.
But again, it's the same point that you make there, that it's kind of...
Attackers, right? Last defender to win it was Cannavaro, 2006. He had to be captain and lift the World Cup, I think, to do it.
Yeah, and then again, that's the reason I don't even have him on the list, but Gareth Bale is the other obvious shout there. But I think he kind of falls into the shadow of Ronaldo at Madrid, and then it will take another big performance from Wales, and it's not even sure if they will make the World Cup in 2018. So that could make it all the harder.
It'd be the first time since 1958.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, right? Ronaldo is 31 years old, which you would think, he's on the decline. But the more you see of Ronaldo and the more you hear about his insane training regime and how much effort he puts into staying fit and sharp and not drinking, right? Not eating poorly. He's got this kind of perfect approach. I feel like he's going to be top level for a good few years.
It was hilarious to me because I had just done like a thing for Paste about like the most ridiculous like endorsements from players, and he endorses like KFC and these other fast food chains that he has never ever eaten in his life.
Is his motto like, I would never eat this, but for you it's probably fine?
First of all, yes, that probably is it. It's also great to see him because like the KFC one, in one of the ads he's holding it like a server, and the other one he's holding it like a person who's never eaten fried chicken. Like he's holding the drumstick, but it's like too far up the drumstick, and he clearly doesn't quite know what to do with it. Like, wait, there's still the bone here? I bite into this? Are we sure? We sure this is how it goes? So yeah, I think he'll definitely be around and continue to be a strong contender for it.
But that feeds into sort of how we're thinking about this, right? And that's why maybe Ramos isn't a great choice, because he's no spring chicken either. He's not old, but he's not sort of magnificently younger than Ronaldo.
So do you have multiples, or do you just have the one?
I have at least 3 over here.
Okay, so now I'm down to 3, so why don't you go ahead?
All right, let's start with someone who said they want this. Mario Balotelli. It is his stated ambition to win the Ballon d'Or.
And it's not going to happen.
He's top of the league in France with Nice, so maybe.
Maybe, but I think he's like 10th on the scoring charts in Ligue 1.
Right.
So it's not like he is the single-handedly pulling that team up to the top of the table.
But I'm saying, like, he's the star of that team. I think if that team does really well this year, even if they finish top 3 in France, people are like, oh, this Balotelli, he's back on track. Maybe a big team takes a gamble on him. Then maybe suddenly he gets that sort of starring role for a big team that he wants. I'm saying this, I'm not even convinced this is going to happen.
No.
But I feel like he has to be in the running just because he's the only one who's come out and said, I want to win the Ballon d'Or.
Yeah.
But it's like a Weinstein Miramax campaign where you start saying I want it early.
But I feel like with Balotelli, and bear with me because I'm not sure this will make sense, but I feel like it's almost like he wants it for the opposite reasons of most people.
Yeah.
Like most people want it because they've had, or they don't even want it, but like they win it because they've had all this success, both for club and country.
Well, they win it because they're busy winning other titles.
Yeah.
Whereas Balotelli wants it to prove he's a great player.
That's
right?
it, because it's unlikely, or at least at present point, that he's going to get immediate attention from the Italian national team. So it seems like it's basically just going to be Ligue 1, and that maybe is why he wants to have that kind of that credit given to him.
He wants Ligue 1 to be Ligue 1.
Yeah, hey, there you go. Nicely done. All right, so that's a long shot, I'll say. And if we're going to stick with long shots, then I will go with Gabriel Jesus.
Oh, okay.
So this, again, would be a couple years down the road, maybe after the 2018 World Cup. But you look at him and you look at, like, he's kind of having that quiet campaign where he slowly is building accolades. He's got the Olympics. He's got winning the Brazilian League, moving to City. We'll see how it goes with City. We'll see how it goes with Brazil in the upcoming World Cup. But he's quietly becoming a star for Brazil.
And for those who are unfamiliar, he's already made his big move to Manchester City, but he was loaned back to Palmeiras, right? And I think he's like 19, 20, something like that. And so he's got time to age into the spotlight as Ronaldo / Messi, who's 29, ages out. I think that's a good pick.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm kind of exaggerating here, but it's something along the lines of he has like 15 caps for the senior team and I think 73 goals.
Yeah, that adds up.
It's obviously not that, but I think it really is close to like 1-1. Like he is scoring that many for Brazil that I think it will take one big tournament where all of a sudden he goes from that name that a lot of people know, but not maybe the mainstream people know, to becoming that like Ronaldinho-esque name for Brazil.
He's already got a gold medal.
He's real good. Yeah.
Okay, other Brazilians. How about Neymar? Neymar, Messi's teammate, only 24 years old. So it feels like peak Neymar right now. But there could be a time when, you can't rely on Messi quite so much. You can't rely on Suarez quite so much. And he becomes like the dominant figure in that Barcelona trident. He could be Barcelona's go-to player and Brazil's go-to player. He's just got to make sure to do it before Gabriel Jesus catches him up and becomes the star.
Yeah,
right?
Okay, I like that one.
But Neymar definitely has that profile, right, where it's not weird to think of him as a Ballon d'Or winner. Yeah.
But doesn't he have the same problem that a lot of the Madrid players have, which is that he's on the same team as Messi?
Yeah.
So any achievements Messi has at club level, Neymar's going to have,
definitely,
and vice versa.
Yeah, the only way that I can see it happening is just that he's got that half decade less than Messi, which is a way of making 5 years sound like a lot.
Well, no, I mean it is because there does come that time when the roles sort of switch and it becomes
the scales tip.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so especially if you spend 5 years amicably chasing, but still chasing that player, eventually you are still the player underneath. You're the one who's working to try to get above.
Yep.
So you're always going to be putting in that much effort, and that could be Neymar. Maybe he does have that one season where he just has this crazy breakout year, which is insane to say about Neymar.
Neymar 2018.
Okay. Well, again, 2018 is a big one for a lot of these guys, including, I would say, Antoine Griezmann, who is, the number 3 this year?
Yeah, place this year.
Yeah, I could see him also getting a lot of attention. And I think the caveat here would be it seems likely that he is going to make a move from Atletico at some point in the, I wouldn't even say near future, but relatively near future.
Is there a feeling he has to be at a bigger team for a Ballon d'Or?
I don't know, but I think Diego Simeone is going to leave. That would be my guess, that he'll go to a bigger club. And then in that case, I can't see Antoine Griezmann staying with Atletico, and then it just depends on where he goes. Because if he goes to, say, Manchester United, where he's been linked many, many times, if that doesn't suit his style, if he becomes another player who is sort of has games and doesn't have good games, then maybe he falls down a little bit. But if he goes somewhere that really suits his style, we've seen what he can do with Atletico and with the French national team in this past Euros. I could see him having a big year, a big national team campaign in 2018, and maybe the Ballon d'Or that year.
I think Atletico suits his style.
Yeah, I think so. Or, I mean, really, like Chelsea on the counterattack. Any team that's playing that kind of blistering counterattack where you give them a chance and they scored Leicester. Throw them in at Leicester. We'll see what happens.
I'm sure he'd love that.
Yeah.
All right, should we go one more each before we wear out our welcome?
I've got my main candidate left.
Okay, I've got a big name, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang.
That's a good show.
Of Borussia Dortmund, who we know that Real Madrid have a first option on to buy. So he could be like the replacement Benzema.
I'm trying to remember who came up with Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang as an idea between the two of us. Who was that?
Well, with the mics on, it was me. The possible downside there is Aubameyang's 27, which really surprised me.
Yeah, me too.
Because it feels like he's only just got going the last couple of years, but he's been around France. He was at Saint Etienne, got really big the last 3 years with Dortmund. So I don't know if he's got time to emerge as the because really when we're talking about potential Ballon d'Or winners, we're essentially talking about the highest profile player who also has a standout season with trophies to back up his celebrity, right?
Yeah.
That's like, with all respect to the journalists that vote for this, that's kind of what it ends up being.
Yeah, I think so. And I would say I don't necessarily know if Aubameyang has to move in order to be in that serious consideration.
True, but Dortmund would have to win the Champions League.
Or do something big, yeah.
Gabon would have to win the World Cup.
I mean, or just do well in the African Cup of Nations this year, maybe. And that, again, raises his profile. But I think he probably would need to go to a larger club if he really wanted, like, easier attention, I guess is the best way to put it. And the likely club is Madrid. He's talked about moving to Madrid. It seems like a foregone conclusion almost that if he moves, it's to that location. But then you've got Benzema and you've got Alvaro Morata there. You've got Ronaldo. You've got Bale. So it's going to take either like moving around the formation from Zinedine Zidane, or it could be he gets a few games. Oh, he's not playing that well. Benzema's going to start now. Oh, he didn't play that well. Morata's going to start, and so it could be hard for him to cement a place.
Who's your final pick then, Taylor?
It's Paul Pogba.
Of course. Most expensive player in the world?
I believe so.
Yeah. So he's already got the profile. He's sort of the Adidas golden boy in many ways. You've seen that ad, right?
I've seen that ad.
With the lady banging on the ceiling?
Oh, no. Oh, yeah, there's that one. I thought you were talking about his unveiling, with him and Stormzy, him dancing. Which is my favorite video ever because the rapper is wearing a Man United kit and then Pogba's wearing Pogba clothing. And then my wife was totally confused why the rapper was dancing and the player was rapping. Yeah. And I think if he had stayed at Juventus, he probably does a little bit better in the voting this year. Even though he had
or if he'd lit it up at Manchester United. Right?
That too, yeah.
Or if he'd lit up Euro 2016. Basically, if he'd played better.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. And I think a big part of that is that Juventus, the coaches knew how to use him. They knew how to kind of build the team around him. I think Jose Mourinho is starting to do that a little bit. I don't know if France is ever going to do that.
Has it kind of... we just assumed he would be able to do it in any system because he looked so great every time we saw him play for Juventus in that sort of left side of a middle three. And now we've realised that maybe it needs a bit more work for him to work somewhere in that Manchester United system.
Yeah, I mean, but I think he's getting there. And I think the other reason why I say Paul Pogba is because... like for everything that we've just said, like he's got the crazy hair, he's got the flash, he's got the attitude, he's got the expensive transfer.
He'll have a highlight reel. In the way that Messi and Ronaldo have a highlight reel, Paul Pogba definitely will have that.
But the other thing that people forget about, I think, unless you watch him as much as I've watched him this season, is that he is a physical freak. Yes. Is the best way to put it.
Like he'll knock you off the ball.
He isn't so strong for how skinny he is, but he's so big and tall and can pull off these amazing bits of skill while still being strong at the same time. And I'd say every single game this season, he has at least one moment where he has no business controlling a ball, no business being able to win a challenge, and still pulls it off like with the ball under control. And eventually you harness that, you reach form, you get comfortable with the team, you start performing, you start scoring, you start getting that attention. Maybe you get the Ballon d'Or.
All right, so Pogba versus Neymar 2018?
Sure.
Yeah?
I can see that.
A lot will depend on the World Cup.
I think so.
All right.
Although I also won't be surprised if Messi and Neymar continue to win it for the next 4 years.
Messi and Ronaldo?
That's the one.
How quickly we forget.
Yeah.
How quickly
I think
we forget.
It's basically that I think in our draft that we did this year, I drafted Neymar and you drafted both Messi and Ronaldo. Yeah. So I'm just trying to get Neymar in there as fast as I can.
You're trying to fast track it.
Yeah.
Okay, the other big news earlier this week is the UEFA Champions League, the round of 16 draw has taken place. We know the 8 matchups that are going to happen. We've got a few categories we're going to go through, have a little bit of fun with this rather than the same old conversation. We talked off air that we wanted to let people know about the draw, but we didn't want to just list it. So here's what we've come up with. Taylor, you read out the draw, draw by draw, and I'll give you a quick comment on each one before we get into the meat of what we're going to do here.
Sounds good.
I'm just going to try and ad-lib a little bit.
Interesting. All right. We'll go chronological order. We'll start with PSG versus Barcelona.
Qatar as far as the eye can see. They've got foundation on the shirts, and then PSG are owned by Qatar.
All right. Okay. I like it. Benfica v Dortmund.
Benfica v Dortmund.
The age-old clash of Portugal versus Germany.
Just go Christian Pulisic.
Okay.
That's what I'm going to say.
Easy enough.
That's the American angle, right?
It's the old fallback. Real Madrid versus Napoli.
Who will Rafa Benitez be supporting?
The answer is probably Napoli or neither. Bayern versus Arsenal.
Bayern versus Arsenal. Poor Arsenal. We'll talk more about this game later.
I actually am one of the few who thinks maybe not poor Arsenal. But yeah, we'll talk about that.
I'm just saying they won their group, right, for the first time in a while, and this is what they get? That's not fair.
Yeah. Well, I think, again, more on that.
UEFA hates Arsenal. That's my comment on this.
Yes, I think so. Leverkusen Atletico.
Tactics.
Okay.
4-4-2, looks basic, but crazy tactics, right, on both sides.
Man City Monaco.
New money versus old money.
Yep. Except no, new money versus new money, I think, right?
Well, I think of Monaco, Monte Carlo and all the old yachts and stuff there. But also the fact that Monaco spent money way back, got James and all that. And
again,
not spending money so
way
much.
back is 3 seasons ago, I think, yeah.
Soccer moves fast.
And are owned by a Russian billionaire. Do you remember why they had to start selling players?
Yeah, Russian billionaires, that's old money.
Oh, I see. Nowadays, they're the old money? That's how it works?
Yeah, Russian billionaires, that's the old money, right? Russian oil is the old money, Saudi oil and Middle Eastern oil is the new money.
That's tragic.
It's kind of true with football teams.
Yeah. Do you know why he had to sell players? Not why he had to, but one of the reasons why they started selling players and spending less money? Yeah.
No.
Because I believe he and his wife divorced, and it was the largest divorce settlement in world history. That's how much money she got. And one of the theories was
he was like, I've got to sell James.
He basically was like, I got to quit spending so much money. Who's this guy? We spend how much on him? Sell him. Yeah. we got to recoup some expenses here.
All right. What else we got? There are 2 more games?
There are Porto Juventus.
Viva Mexico. Right, if we're looking at Pulisic as from the American angle for Dortmund, then Porto. There's Herrera. I think Tecatito's there.
I believe so.
And León. I think there's at least 3 Mexican players at Porto. So,
all right. And finally, Sevilla Leicester, or Leicester if you're Ted Lasso.
That's weird. It's still weird to see Leicester in the round of 16. I'm going to say tactics again.
It's kind of weird to see Sevilla in the Champions League.
Okay, my comment is this the Europa League?
Yeah, it is. That's fair.
All right, so everybody now knows.
Without, let me rephrase, without being discourteous to either of those teams.
No, it's great that they're there.
Yeah.
So we're going to go through, now you know all the games that are happening. They're February and March, the 2 legs, the round of 16. We've got a few categories that we're going to sort of float up. We don't know the answers to each other, I think, so I'm going to float them up and we'll see what we got. First of all, who got screwed?
Yeah.
Who got the worst draw here?
I think you probably have to say it is Arsenal.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a joke that a lot of people believe was going to happen. Bayern tweeted them, should we just book our tickets now? Yeah. And I think we talked about on the show that it seemed like it was going to happen, and indeed it did.
Yeah.
It is still Bayern Munich, but it's not the Bayern Munich of old. It's not the Bayern Munich that destroyed Arsenal last season because it's not Pep, and they are struggling. There's even been speculation.
They're not even as good as RB Leipzig.
There we go. There's even speculation that Ancelotti could get sacked because it's been so underwhelming because it seems like the players aren't nearly as disciplined as they were, don't have the kind of attention that they had to detail last season.
Which, sidebar, people talk a lot about sort of Pep's quote struggles in the Premier League this year. I think Ancelotti's struggles with Bayern underline just how good Guardiola was at Bayern and how he had that team humming for 3 seasons straight.
Well, that's one way to put it. The other argument,
that's how Pep Guardiola would put it.
Well, because the other argument I've heard is that basically he burned all the players out and that they were so tired of rules and regulations and they were so sort of exhausted by the system and the attention to detail that Ancelotti comes in and has a little bit more of a relaxed approach, and it kind of all crumbles because they're all burnt out.
Like, substitute teacher.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. Or like substitute teacher who doesn't scream at us. Yesterday, substitute teacher just yelled, so now we have one who's kind of relaxed and we can finally just like watch a movie and chill, basically. So I think for that reason, Arsenal, and it does seem like this is Arsenal's season where they are bucking the trends of old. They're not. Even like they go to Manchester United in a game that they probably would have lost in years past, and they find a way to get that draw when I think they have like 2 shots on target. So I think this is an Arsenal team that's a little bit different in the way they're approaching these tournaments. They haven't had the kind of usual slips and downturns that they've had in years past. So I could see going into this one, a lot of people being like, "Oh, here we go. Here's Arsenal being Arsenal." Maybe they don't win the first leg, but I could see them get out of this one.
On the flip side, you could maybe say Monaco got a rough draw.
I think so.
Man City was second in their group, right?
Yep.
Barcelona won their group. Mm-hmm. So Monaco, you would think we're hoping for an easier thing, having won their group.
Yeah.
Nope. Man City.
Yeah.
Aguero et al. Come into town.
Yeah, I think so. So then should we go around and say who got lucky?
Yeah, who got the luckiest draw? Yeah.
And I think it's tough to say because none of these were really too easy one way or the other. I mean, the point that I've seen is that every single one of these teams plays in one of Europe's 6 biggest leagues. I think all but one were in the first pot when they were drawing for the different groups. That one outlier would be Monaco. So, I mean, it's a lot of huge teams. With that in mind, I would say the teams that are probably the happiest in terms of being able to go farther in this tournament is Leicester. Because the possible draw they had were Bayern, Real Madrid, PSG, Benfica, who are top of the Portuguese league, and Leverkusen, who, as you mentioned, are very tricky and play a kind of a similar 4-4-2, crazy wrinkles, you're never quite sure what to expect from them sort of system.
Schmidt ball.
So in terms of those, I mean, you're still going up against Sevilla, who have Sampaoli. They have that kind of, again, you don't really know what to expect, but it could have been a much worse draw in terms of potentially having Real Madrid or Bayern come to town and smash you 4-0 at home.
Fair enough. Well, weirdly, I was going to say Sevilla got lucky because they could have been sort of overawed by having sort of a big name team that they would be like, oh, Champions League round of 16, and they'd have a bit of a wobble. But instead, Leicester City don't have that sort of scary aura about them.
See, but the weird thing with Sevilla is that, like, you say that, but really they finished second. Like, they couldn't get that many people because they can't get Barcelona. They can't get Atletico.
Yeah.
And then really the only other like first place teams that are scary, like from that like conventional standpoint, would be Arsenal and Juventus.
Right.
So I think it's still like, I see what your point is, but like it's a weird aspect of this draw that there's really good teams in both sides. And then because of the rules that you can't draw a team from the group that you were in, you can't draw anybody from your home country in that first round. It makes it a little bit stranger with this draw.
So Man City is the real answer then. They finish second, and then they get Monaco, who are sort of arguably the weakest of the, at least theoretically, the weakest of the group winners.
So then they got lucky. Yeah. Okay, I got you. Yeah.
Okay. How about this? Best individual matchup across all these games, not team v team, but player versus player. Is there anything that jumps out at you that's going to be exciting to watch?
There's two, and you just mentioned Man City. Monaco.
Yeah.
I will go with Radamel Falcao and John Stones.
So people forget that Falcao always was a Monaco player, despite being on loan at Chelsea, on loan at Manchester United. Oddly, he's now. You told me before we started recording that he was banging in goals, right? Was this setting me up for this Falcao v John Stones?
Yeah, a little bit. Well, I was doing the research. Yeah, because he had a hat trick this weekend for Monaco. He is third top scorer in Ligue 1, I believe. He's doing well in the Champions League. He seems to have rediscovered his form. And
John Stones is just passing the ball to opposition strikers.
Exactly. And so you do have this kind of Man City who currently, we'll see how things are in February or March, but right now they're in a little bit of like chaos. There's a lot of drama. There's a lot of attention about, is this working? Is Pep getting it right? Does he need to make changes? So it'll be interesting to see where John Stones is come February, March, and if Falcao is continuing in this current form.
And it seems, at least in my head, it's like the wily old man, Falcao. He's been around the block a few times. He might be older than his birth certificate even says he is, right? But he definitely knows all the old striker tricks. And that's versus the sort of idealism and naivety, maybe, of someone like John Stones, right?
Yeah, but also, I mean, you still have Falcao, who's a big guy and is not as pacey as he was, but he's still decently pacey. But then he's got the skill and the trickery and the finishing ability to like, I feel like he could hurt John Stones or whomever is partnering him.
Well, yeah, there's going to be whichever Man City fullback plays alongside John Stones in central defence.
Exactly. Do you have any other ones? Because I've got one more.
Yeah, I was kind of fascinated by this Leverkusen Atletico Madrid matchup, and I can't choose between it's fullback versus wingers, right? So Leverkusen's wingers on the left, it's possibly Julian Brandt, right, who's this young German winger, really exciting, up against the elbows and sort of big dark eye patches of Juan Fran. Right, kind of cynical in a good way. Atletico right back. That sort of youth and like talent and skill and explosiveness versus Juan Fran. On the other side, probably Chanalolu often plays sort of right wing. He's going to be up against Felipe Luis, right? Or is it Luis Felipe? I always get this wrong way around. Felipe Luis. Yeah, so you got two really good winger v fullback matchups in Atletico versus Leverkusen.
I like that one. I've got two more that are like, I would say, maybe not they're the best matchup, but they're, I think, very interesting individual matchups. One is, I think Leicester are fascinating in the Champions League because a lot of Premier League teams went up against them last year and they just did the 4-4-2, they being Leicester. They had that kind of smash and grab approach. And the teams that approached it as like, oh, they're 4-4-2, we know how to do this, they're counterattacking, we got it, kept getting embarrassed.
Yeah.
And I think now some Premier League teams have learned how to deal with it.
Right.
But now I think it's the
you
knock-on.
were saying earlier, the one exception is Guardiola, because he wasn't there last year.
Yeah,
he wasn't there to
exactly.
learn it. He learned it this weekend.
But I think
he
a
got
lot
his
of
2015-16 lesson last weekend.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's happening, though, in the Champions League, where you're having all these teams that haven't played Leicester going up against them and being like, oh, they're the crazy outlier who won the Premier League. They've done it to us again.
Oh,
And
I withdraw my comment about Sevilla getting a lucky draw then.
yeah, well, we'll see. But that's what I wanted to talk about. I was thinking about Mahrez, but really the interesting one will be Jamie Vardy, and if he can, I would say rediscover form, even though he did have a hat trick this weekend against Man City. Prior to that game, he was struggling a bit, hadn't scored in like 8 games, thereabouts. But he still got like that pace and that clinical finishing ability up against a center back, say, Adil Rami, who never looks particularly fit and is certainly not very pacey. That will be a very fascinating matchup.
I don't think of I know Mercado, the Argentinian, has been playing that. I don't think of him as being particularly fast. We saw him at the Copa America for Argentina.
And I cannot remember the third center back who starts for Sevilla, so I apologize.
But the interesting thing is they do play that back three.
Yep.
And that, I think, going up against the way, say, Vardy likes to pull wide, Mahrez likes to pull wide, and Leicester like to play those diagonals, right, for those guys to sort of get on the end of, there's probably space for them to exploit there.
Yeah, I think so. And then the other matchup, which maybe a lot of people have written about, I'm sure they have, but I have not read much Champions League coverage, especially about this draw, so I haven't seen. There's one big one that I'm very, very excited about, and that, my friend, is Porto v Juventus, because do you know what that means? Guess who's starting in goal for each team?
Gigi Buffon and Iker Casillas?
There it is, Casillas versus Buffon in the Champions League.
What year is this?
I know, right? It could be 1997, I think. But yeah, just for old time's sake and to see the two of them, two legends in goal, it'll be interesting as well.
What millennia is this?
Any other ones for you?
No, nothing for me. I guess what's the hipster pick of this round? Which game is the one that hipsters are going to be watching?
I think it's the two that we've just been talking about: Sevilla, Leicester.
Oh no, we're hipsters.
Yeah, Sevilla, Leicester, and Porto, Juventus.
That sounds about right to me. Oh, I'd argue Leverkusen, Atletico. At least for tactics.
Oh yeah,
because
absolutely.
They both do those sort of 4-4-2s, and Leverkusen are kind of aggressive, and Atletico are more like sit back and wait and get you, whereas Leverkusen are like come after you kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So that's going to be an interesting tactical battle.
Yeah.
Schmidt versus Simeone.
Yep, I like it. All right, that's a good shout. That is the answer. It's that game exactly.
For the tactical stuff, yeah.
Sampaoli,
Ranieri. Maybe if Ranieri was like cooler. Somehow all the Leicester success didn't make Ranieri any cooler in the hipster tactical way, right?
No.
Mostly because he did a kind of old school Arrigo Sacchi kind of thing.
Yeah, and also a lot of the stories were about like how he wanted to give his players pizza, but he couldn't until they won. Like it was like you have to have a clean sheet to get pizza, and it was more about him being like a fun old grandfather than it was a tactical genius.
Maybe you have to be young to be perceived as a hip tactical manager. You have to have like cool glasses like Jurgen Klopp
and tight pants. That's how it works. All right, so then
faith in shaky goalkeepers.
Yes. The final question: which country do you think, which league is happiest come the next round? Which team or which league has the most teams advanced to the next round?
Okay, so I knew this was coming, so I did a bit of a count up of like how many, which countries have how many clubs in there. So do you want to hear that first? I count 2 teams from Portugal, 2 teams from France, 3 teams from Germany, 3 teams from England, and 1, 2, 3, 4 teams from Spain.
I think you might have skipped Italy in there.
And 2 from Italy.
There we are.
Okay. I'm gonna say England.
Okay.
England have a decent chance of getting Leicester, Man City, and maybe a 50-50 with Arsenal going through. If England have 3 teams in the quarterfinals, I think that'll be better than it's been for a while.
Absolutely,
right?
It will. Yeah.
So I think even though they don't have as many teams now as Spain, they at least will be doing better historically than previously.
Last season, I think if they were to come the next round, I think the only team that was left at that point was Man City.
Yeah, Man.
And they made the semifinals, obviously, but outside of that, it wasn't a very strong competition for English teams. I think you're right, because I think Arsenal could be a surprise there, because I think so many people just hear Bayern Munich and think, oh, that's a foregone conclusion. Yeah. Same thing for Leicester. I think Leicester have that air of like, oh, they're just happy to be here. And I think that was how a lot of people approached Leicester in the Champions League. Like, oh, they're just going to be happy to be there. They're going to get European competitions. They'll probably finish 3rd or 4th. It won't matter.
They'll just be happy to win their group and beat everybody everybody.
Yeah, exactly. And so now that might be the case of like, oh, they'll be happy to be in the knockout rounds. It won't matter so much. So I could see all three of them go through. And if they don't, then I think the most likely one is going to be Spain, because you're going to get Barcelona and Madrid. I think Atletico have a very good chance, even though it's going to be interesting to eliminate Leverkusen. And then if it's not Leicester, then that means it's Sevilla, which means all four Spanish teams have gone through.
Yeah, and even if that happens, obviously Spain will be happy, but they kind of are pretty used to having a lot of teams go through, right? Barca, Atletico, Real. It's not new for them to have a lot of teams get to the later stages.
And actually, speaking of that, it is sort of weird that we've just kind of assumed that Barcelona are going to go through, given that they're playing PSG, who are notoriously a decent team.
Yeah, but they got Zlatan. Oh, no.
I mean, that is part of it, right? Is like they're still a ridiculously good team. It's just maybe not as strong. And there is an air of like that invincibility and that like beautiful silverware of PSG has kind of been the luster is off a little bit.
Well, there's usually by this time, right, December, they're usually sort of building up a nice lead at the top of Liga, and that's not happening this time, so it doesn't feel quite as,
Yeah, and then you don't have Zlatan, as you said, you don't have David Luiz. I would imagine there'll be a January signing or two. But it's just a little different, and this is not to be discourteous, but it is a little different to have like that front three of Zlatan, Edson Cavani, and Angel Di Maria, and now have Edson Cavani, Angel Di Maria, and Hatem Ben Arfa. Like, it's just not that, like, he's a very good player, a bit of a head case, but not quite on that same level. Maybe that's what they did. They tried to replace a crazy guy with a crazy guy, and we'll see how that goes. So I just think, in terms of PSG underperforming in Ligue 1 and maybe not as strong as they have been, and Barcelona continuing to be Barcelona, I think Barcelona get the edge there. And then same goes for Real Madrid against Napoli.
One thing we haven't talked about is much about Christian Pulisic. Yeah. Right? So we've got, for the first time, because this didn't happen last year, for the first time we have an American starting regularly or semi-regularly.
You added the starting so you wouldn't have to talk about Julian Green, didn't you?
Yes, because really, like you can watch that Bayern match and hope that you're going to see Julian Green. You're almost certainly not going to, right? Nope. There's a very good chance you're not going to, unless
he hasn't been on the bench the last couple times I've checked.
You're not going to see Zellem, you're not going to see Julian Green,
no,
right? But Christian Pulisic, very likely to at least play some part for Borussia Dortmund. Pretty likely to start in the round of 16 in the Champions League, which means he's playing for a team that could go far in the Champions League. So we're looking at maybe supporting an American and hoping that they can be lifting that trophy. And I don't think we've been able to do that for a long, long time. It's sort of a new feeling. And I don't think anyone's really processed that yet. Maybe like Fox will start talking about it as we get to February and this round of 16 starts happening.
Yeah, there was a small part of me that wanted to include him on that Ballon d'Or list, but that's a bit ridiculous.
Is it though?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It absolutely is. When there are like 8 other names ahead of him at Dortmund that are more likely to get it, then yes, it's ridiculous. But doesn't mean I can't start the hype train early.
So, okay.
Sorry, to clarify, the Pulisic Ballon d'Or hype train. Not just the Pulisic hype train. That's well and truly started.
So, my final question for you. Which game, genuinely, are you most excited to see?
I mean, we can
watch all of them because they're nice and spread.
It's probably Bayern Arsenal. I mean, I think that will be fascinating from a big name standpoint, from a tactical standpoint, and just from a narrative standpoint. If it could go either way,
versus Mustafi and Koscielny, that's great.
Yep. Yeah. That's fascinating. I feel like one of them might be suspended, but I could be wrong. I think that's really good. I do think PSG Barcelona will be interesting, but I think it will be interesting from a reminder of just how good Barcelona is standpoint. And then I think, even though it's the hipster pick, Leverkusen, Atletico, just because you do have so many good players on both sides of the ball, you've got 2 good coaches. It's going to be a very fun, frenetic match to watch.
Correct answer was Dortmund Benfica.
Okay.
Today's show is sponsored by Seat Geek. Seat Geek are making buying tickets online for sports and concerts much less confusing than it has ever been.
Yeah, we use Seat Geek. We like Seat Geek. I'm considering using Seat Geek to buy tickets to Gogo Bordello, my favorite gypsy punk band. They're playing in Baltimore at Rams Head, and I'm thinking about it. We shall see.
So Seat Geek, you've played me some Gogo Bordello.
Oh, yeah?
I kind of like it. You might be able to persuade me to go to Baltimore.
So now you're latching on. Now I have to buy you tickets.
Yeah,
I don't know how I feel about that.
Book two. You can choose on SeatGeek how many tickets you're going to book. So SeatGeek is an aggregator for all other ticket sellers, especially for sold-out events. People are reselling tickets. SeatGeek is the legal way to get tickets to sold-out events. One thing I found was Chris Rock, the Chris Rock, has announced a tour for 2017. He's coming to Richmond in March. It's the first time he's toured in 9 years.
Yeah, he said he was busy writing Pootie Tang 3.
That's what he said. I'm pretty sure he was joking.
I think so. Since I'm pretty sure that would mean he bypassed Pootie Tang 2.
He was actually busy writing High Five. Did you see that? It's really good. This is like film about making lists.
I mean, I believe it. He's pretty good at everything he does.
Yeah.
Hair, good
top
hair.
5?
Good hair was pretty good.
Good hair's great, yeah.
And then all of his other specials are rather good and kind of important.
So Chris Rock on tour for the first time in 9 years. He's coming to Richmond March 5th and 6th, I believe. Looked on my Seat Geek app, found tickets available. So if we want to go see Chris Rock, that is how we can do it.
Based on the name alone, I'm going to say, how about I buy you Gogo Bordello tickets and you buy me Chris Rock tickets? Because I'm pretty sure one is going to be more expensive than the other.
How about we flip a coin?
Yeah.
All right. Here's what you need to do. Download the Seat Geek app. Go to the settings tab and click add a promo code. Enter the promo code, TSS. That'll be easy for us to remember, Taylor, because it's the initials of our show.
Yep.
And then SeatGeek will send you a $20 rebate after you make your first ticket purchase.
So download the SeatGeek app and enter the promo code TSS today.
I will, but first, Taylor, Scouting reports.
Nicely done.
We have scouting reports from the Total Soccer Show Scouting Network.
And now our listeners can faintly hear the sound of us both frantically trying to get the piece of paper that we've put under our stack of other papers.
I got mine.
I have mine too, yeah.
Would you like to go first?
Sure.
Who's your scouting report from and who's it about?
Up first is from Daniel Jones,
Hey.
scouting Cody Cropper, the 23-year-old goalkeeper for New England. The New England Revolution protected only one goalkeeper in the expansion draft, and that name is Cody Cropper. Daniel says that likely means he will feature in their plans for next season, particularly given that all three of their other goalkeepers were made available.
Yeah, the expansion draft is the time when you find out whether your team values you enough to keep you or not.
It is and it isn't, but it's because I think it's also, and I'm so confused by the expansion draft in that I've read a lot about it and I know there's lots of opinion on it, but like, there's a lot of big names that were included in the players available. Like Didier Drogba was in there. Landon Donovan was in there.
Well, because he's one's retiring and one's leaving the league.
I mean, but there's other Robbie Keane, I think, same thing. But there's other bigger names. I think the issue there is like, we made them available because there's no chance that you're paying their salary.
Like I think Gio Dos Santos, I don't know if he was protected or not, but I know DPs aren't automatically protected. But someone's going to have to be brave enough to be like, we'll pay you $7 million a year or whatever it is.
So there always seems to be a little bit of gambling, and then I guess based on what happened in the expansion draft, I think Matt Doyle from MLS Soccer was saying that it seems like Minnesota drafted to get some role players and some like roster fillers, and Atlanta drafted to be able to trade those players back to get allocation money or international roster spots and the like.
So I was confused. The big name I saw that Atlanta took in the expansion draft was Clint Irwin, Toronto FC goalkeeper, a goalkeeper who came like a Morrow penalty kick against the bar away from being an MLS Cup winner. Atlanta took him, but they're also supposed to be in the picture to get Brad Guzan with some TAM money when he comes back. And they took another goalkeeper. So does this mean that Clint Irwin's going to be second, third choice behind Guzan?
No, I think, and this is what Matt was talking about, that I think it means that they're going to trade him back to Toronto and get some sort of either super draft pick out of it or, again, a roster spot. Maybe they'll trade international roster spots.
The expansion/extortion draft. We can take your players and then hold them hostage until you give us something to get them back.
I think it shows you how the teams look at the expansion draft. These two teams. One looks at it as an opportunity to kind of fill out the roster a little bit, get some names in there, and then build from there. And I think Atlanta see it as a time to wheel and deal and make some other things happen.
Oh, right. Well, as the analogy I used on the goalmouth this morning was that it's basically the purge, where you lock your doors as best you can, but people are coming to take your players.
Okay. I'm not sure you've seen the Purge movies because that ends rather violently for one of those groups.
I've seen the one, and Clint Irwin has my sympathies.
Up next,
Michael Fisk is scouting Andreas Christensen, the 20-year-old centre-back for Borussia Mönchengladbach, on loan from Chelsea. Michael says that Andreas Christensen scored his first Bundesliga goal of the season to give Mönchengladbach their first win in 8 league games. Oh, is it going that badly?
Yep.
Christensen was in the right place to stab the ball home from about 6 yards out to earn all 3 points against Mainz. I'd say that's not as generous as it could be.
I mean, I think it's because he definitely does a good job to get himself into the position, which I think Michael also stated. Yeah, he does well to get into a spot, but really it's because, in my opinion, it's not like he is wide open and taps it home, and it's not like he craftily insteps it. It is sort of like a reaction that he gets kind of toe laces outside of the foot too. And then I think the goalkeeper probably should have done better, but maybe saw it late, and so it hits off the goalkeeper and goes in. All
right. Either way, salute to Andreas Christensen.
Either way, a goal's a goal, and that's all that matters.
Oh, yeah.
And the final report comes from Ryan Marzak, scouting Pione Sisto, the 21-year-old Danish winger for Celta Vigo.
Hey.
Sisto started for Celta Vigo this weekend against Sevilla. Unfortunately, they lost, I believe, 3-0. He had a solid performance holding down the left flank, once again completing over 85% of his passes. In addition, Celta Vigo advanced to the Europa League round of 32, where they will meet Shakhtar Donetsk, meaning there will be more opportunities for Pione to nail down a spot in the starting 11.
All right. Good luck to Pione Sisto. I hope his parents are there.
Yeah.
Man United in the Europa League?
Yep.
Who'd they get?
They got Saint Etienne, and I remember that specifically because it's Pogba versus Pogba. Paul Pogba's brother plays for Saint Etienne.
What is Paul Pogba's brother's name?
Florentine, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I think. He has two brothers. Paul is the youngest. One plays for Saint Etienne. One plays in maybe Rotterdam, I think.
Huh.
And they're both older. They both play for Gabon or Guinea. I forget what the country is, but they were both born there. Pogba was born in France.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. There you go.
So we could have like a showdown of Pogbas versus Hazards?
Yeah.
Right? Do we have enough? It'd be 3v4, I think.
That doesn't seem fair, right?
Maybe the Pogbas would have to team up with the Lalases?
That's a logical combination.
With the Boatengs?
Yeah, that works. Yeah.
Right?
Or there's anybody named Dembele. That works too, right?
I don't think they're actually related, but they
don't
just
care.
form a group.
The Pogba Dembele coalition.
If the Dembeles are all allowed to play together, they win.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
I think so.
Because they got Usman and they got that 13-year-old kid at Celtic and all
Musa.
kinds of other people.
And Musa and another Musa too, right? There's two different Musa Dembeles. So there we are.
Dear.
Yep.
Okay, thank you to Daniel, thank you to Michael, thank you to Ryan, and thank you to everybody who has subscribed to the Total Soccer Show as part of the TSS Scouting Network. You are helping us make the show. I want to give a special mention here to anybody who has signed up for the Total Soccer Show Scouting Network, hasn't received a player, and is waiting. If you're waiting, please contact us. Contact at totalsoccershow.com. Send us an email. Let us know that you are waiting for a player, and we will get one to you as soon as possible. Put in the subject line, itchy feet. And the reason we do that is when we can search our inbox for itchy feet, then we know who's looking for their player.
I'm giving you a quizzical look right now because I think we had this question via email or Twitter about why do we say itchy feet, and that's something I think I've copied from you without knowing why. So it could be like some horribly racist term and I just don't know it.
All right, over my inbox here.
Okay.
It is. We got the question from Joey Jadlowski, who basically he put subject line itchy feet, so I opened it assuming he was after a player, and he said, no, I'm not after a player. I want to know why you keep saying tell us itchy feet to get your player.
Yeah.
So to me, the phrase itchy feet is when you...
Wait, do you not know the answer for this?
Sort of.
Okay.
I can tell you what the phrase itchy feet means. It means that you want to be somewhere. Like you are impatient, essentially, right? Because if you're standing still and you're supposed to be somewhere, you want to get there fast. You've got itchy feet because like your feet are like twitching and moving as if you've like got some fungal infection, I guess.
I've Googled it, itchy feet, to find the answer. And the answer is skin conditions that cause feet to itch include allergic contact dermatitis, which can be caused by something like new laundry detergent, athlete's foot, or tinea pedis.
But there's not like anything saying it's an idiom meaning you're
I'm sure there is. I just didn't Google it fast enough.
So this happened the very first time we just invited people to email if they wanted their player. I said, if you've got itchy feet, email us and put the subject line itchy feet.
My guess would be that it comes from like a person who's really anxious to go, like they're moving their feet like back and forth, or they're kind of shuffling them.
Yeah.
And I'm sure somebody at some point was like, what, are your feet itch? Like, what's your problem there? Because you're moving them around all the time.
The other one is like, you know, people who like fidget a lot, they can't sit still. At least in England we say, if you've got ants in your pants.
Yeah.
Same thing here.
I've heard that before.
It's like that without implying that you've been invaded by insects.
Although in your ability to like demonstrate ants in your pants, you actually just did like some nice flamenco salsa dancing. It was some nice hip swivel there. It was well done by you.
I can't help but move my hips seductively.
That was terrifying. It was so much worse the second time. So much worse.
It was more self-conscious, that's why.
I see.
So, Joey, I hope that answers your question. And if you've joined the Scout Network, you're looking for your player, email us, itchy feet. Don't think too hard about what it means. Just put it in there so that we can find you.
There we are.
And if you want to subscribe, it's totalsoccershow.com/subscribe. One final thing to mention, Taylor, I don't think you know about this. I saw this on Twitter before we started recording.
Where it is.
The Total Soccer Show t-shirts, which are available at totalsoccershow.com/shop.
Yes.
Right, there's the logo one. There's the 4-2-3-1 one. That's not the formation. That's you get me.
It's what cheaters play.
They're made by Who Are You Designs.
Yep.
Who Are You Designs are having a sort of end of year special, 30% off if you order before December 19th and you use the promo code LastChance30. So you can get a TSS t-shirt with 30% off. Use the promo code LastChance30. Go to totalsoccershow.com/shop for the links.
There we are. That's the easier one. I was going to try to spell out Who Are You Designs. But yeah, just go to TotalSoccerShow.com/shop.
That's why we have that.
There we are.
All right, that's all from us for today. We'll, of course, be back on Wednesday. Please remember to subscribe to our other podcast, The Goalmouth. I feel like we haven't mentioned it enough. I really want to get people listening to that every morning. I think we've hit a bit of a stride. Brooks on Monday, me on Tuesday, George on Wednesday, Taylor on Thursday, Ryan on Friday.
There we are.
Love to your mothers. Taylor Rockwell, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Right back at you, buddy.
Listeners, thank you for listening, and we'll be back again on Wednesday. You gotta slice it.